What's good, y'all? Riley Beats here, and today, wow, that was intense. Today, I'm gonna show y'all how I produced Real You by Richman, which is out now, and you can stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, all platforms. So run it up. And by the way, if you could leave a like, comment, and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that. You would greatly appreciate that. The community would greatly appreciate that. And I heard it might get rid of mosquitoes. You never know, but there's only one way to find out. So let's get right into it. So first things first, I'm gonna just play y'all the beat. This is how the beat sounds straight up.
Shut your dumb ass up.
Pretty simple. How the connection happened was Richman reached out to me. He was like, bro, I like your beats, let's work on something. So I sent him some of my beats that I made. He hopped on this one. He said he liked it, took it to a studio, got it mixed, got it mastered. He does his own mixing, by the way, so he mixed it, he got it mastered, and bam, here we are. So let's break down the beat one step at a time. So first things first, we got this guitar here. This was like the main thing to my whole melody. This kind of carries the melody, and I very much remember how I put this together. So I'm just gonna delete this real quick. So I started off and I was just like, okay, let's just throw down some bass notes. I'm in A sharp minor, by the way, for this, so I'll just highlight those notes for you. A sharp minor is pretty much all the sharps. So we have here A sharp, C sharp. By the way, F is E sharp if you don't know in music theory stuff, so that's what I mean by all the sharps. I started off, if you know me, I like to throw down my bass notes. So I threw down just these bass notes. I went for a very simple 1, 3, 5, 6. The logic behind this was the 3 goes into the 1 very nicely. The 6 is going to be a major, and that goes back into a minor chord pretty nicely as well. So it kind of has like this sad feeling just to the bass notes. Typically from there, like I turned it into chords, but I turned it into some like pretty simple chords. It's not even really chords. These are dyads, by the way. So triad is 3 notes in a chord. A dyad is just 2. So this is a dyad, and I believe, if I remember correctly, yeah, this is a dyad of the 5th. So the 5th of this chord is pitched up an octave, and in the 3rd, so this is the 3, this bass note, this is the 3rd chord of the scale. This is the 3rd of the 3rd chord. So the 5th note, if you can see here, that's the 5th of the 1st chord, but the 3rd of the next chord after. So that works over there, and I brought that up just because it kind of adds like a nice little feel to it. So this is the 7th of this chord, and then it goes back to the 5th of that chord. So that's just kind of the music theory breakdown of that, and here's how that all sounds. I did strum these chords too so that they have a bit more of a human feel, and I messed around with the velocity a bit so they have more of a human feel too. So then from there, I kind of just added in some filler notes, some stuff to fill up all that blank space that was in the middle. And how I kind of came up with this was, it was just kind of what I heard. I heard like a very chill vibe on this, and this is kind of what I came up with. I repeated it kind of like an A, B, B, C kind of thing, but added this in just to give it a little bit more flavor. And this is the 7th of this chord as well. This is the 5th, so this is somewhere in this chord. And so here's how that sounds. The next layer I added was this little top line. I kind of just wanted to add a little something extra. It doesn't come in through the song very much, but cool little fun fact, in the studio when it got mixed, they actually put this through a $2,000 amp, so it sounds really cool actually in the song. I just kind of heard something, added a little pretty basic rhythm to it. This rhythm is like, you see it a lot in bouncier, melodic kind of beats. I felt like the guitar melody was a little lacking, so that's kind of why I threw this in here, and here's how this sounds. And I did turn it down quite a bit because I did want it to be a bit more ambient, a bit more in the back. Then I pulled up this vocal from Arcade. I'm trying to open Arcade so I can show y'all. So I pulled up this vocal from Distant Voices in Arcade. Nothing really too crazy. I honestly just had it playing 1 note. So I pretty much just extended this vocal for a full 8 bars. Here's how that sounds. So it's definitely more of like an ambient kind of background sound, and that was what I was going for with this. I wanted the guitar to be more ambient overall. And then I threw this bass down, pretty simple bass. I just kind of followed the bass notes, and I did add a glide to it so the bass would glide from note to note, kind of make it more smooth. So I'm just gonna get into the effects and the mixing of what I did here. So first things first, going back to this guitar, nothing too crazy. I just threw guitar rig and some EQ just to kind of mix the sounds in together a bit better. So I used the Prince in the Rain preset from Guitar Rig 5. I love this preset. It gives a nice ambient sound. Here's how this sounds without any of the effects. So for the little ambient top line that I kind of threw in on guitar, I did the same thing. I have Guitar Rig here. Again, the exact same effect, Prince in the Rain, just the ambient, because it does give a little bit of an ambient feel in my opinion. I EQ'd some of these out just because I was trying to make some room for other sounds, and I wanted to boost up here because that's more so where it was hitting. And then I did a little cut because this frequency wasn't coming through very nicely, so I wanted to cut that out a little bit, just make it kind of a little less harsh. And then I threw a limiter on the whole thing just because it was kind of a little too loud and not really leveled as much as I'd like, so I leveled it out a little bit with a limiter. And then obviously I threw some reverb on it just to kind of make it a little bit more ambient. Here's how it sounds without the effects. So now we have the vocal chop. I didn't really do too much to the vocal chop. I kind of just EQ'd a little bit because this is where I want the vocal chop more to be present in. And that's kind of why I cut out of the top line guitar. I also cut here because the other guitar is hitting there a bit and I wanted that to be picked up nicely. So I didn't really do much with the vocal chop. I thought it was nice and ambient already. And then my bass, I didn't really do much with the bass. And then the whole melody I threw into a melody bus, so I can play the full melody together. But I threw the full melody into a melody bus because I wanted to EQ out some of the lows to make some room for the 808, just so that was not clashing with everything. I did sidechain, well I didn't sidechain, but like what I did was I had the melody duck just a little bit at the start of each beat, just to add a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more bounce to it, and so the drums would be impactful a little bit more on those beats. And then I did automate some Fruity Love filter, as you can see, which I'll play in just a second. So 808, let's get into the fun stuff. I use the Love 808. I have no idea. Oh yeah, I think that's from the 10K Mega Kit. I used quite a bit of sounds from the 10K Mega Kit actually for this. I didn't even realize that. I didn't really add a whole lot of effects to the 808. I just EQ slot the kick, boosted the low mids just a tiny bit. Here's how the 808 sounds on its own. There's nothing too crazy with that. And then I slapped in the kick here just so it would kind of go in and the second part would pick up in energy a bit. I just boosted some of the lower end of the kick just to give it a bit more of a thump, and I also boosted up here because I wanted the kick to be a bit more punchy. Then we got the clap. I did absolutely nothing to the clap. I like this clap sample as is. I didn't really do anything to it. Pretty straightforward. I have my accent snare here. Again, I didn't do anything to the accent snare. Then we got the hi-hats. Hi-hat pattern, pretty simple. It was just a two-step that I added a little bit of bounce in the low end here, which I do sometimes, and it's very fun to do if you ever do it. I added a few rolls. There aren't really too many rolls going on. This roll is as freaky as we really get. And here's kind of just how the hi-hats sound on their own. Again, I made the 4-bar loop for the hi-hats and I just copied it over. And then I think we have our open hat here. Cool little thing. I didn't really do much to it. I just put it on every second beat of every second bar. The reason I put it there was I felt like it added a nice bounce in relation to the track, just because you can see here I have no 808 hitting on that section right there. So it adds a nice bounce there, and then I have a 808 hitting here, and this is because it's the last bar. It adds a bit more impact to that 808 and just overall kind of draws a little bit more attention, which will go into the next section. And here's just the full drums all together. For arrangement for this beat, I kept it pretty simple. I just had the little guitar intro, and I brought it into this intro section that I did mention earlier. I brought it in, smoothed it out with adding in this riser here, An intro section, I threw on the love filter, which fades out near the end, just as energy's picking up and the bass drops out. Kind of grabs your attention, hearing everything kind of switch and be a little bit more lo-fi feeling. So going from this, and this is also where I thought I'd introduce the drums, but keep it pretty simple and keep it kind of low key. So I just bring in the clap initially, and then I kind of bring in the hi-hat for a little bit. And then again, this is what I was intending to be the hook, and I think it did end up getting used as the hook. This is just like the first half of the hook where the energy is kind of there, but it's a little bit more low key. And then the second half is where the energy really picks up for the hook. Again, then for the first part of the verse, I thought I would just copy over the intro, how I had that for this section, and just kind of kill pretty much all of the energy, just die down, just go clap and hi-hat. So here's how this kind of sounds. And I thought there, it felt like it was really building up and picking up into something. So I thought it'd be really cool to just reintroduce pretty much all of the drums, but instead you have like the kick, no 808. So it's kind of just in your face, but not like aggressively in your face, if that makes any sense. And then from there, I just went right back into the hook. And then I repeated the verse and I repeated all of that. And I just did pretty basic fade out. That's how I produced Real You by Richman. Stream it on Spotify, stream it on all streaming services now. And that's gonna be all. Peace.
Yeah, it get dark where I'm from, like the upside down. Hope I'm still your friend when I'm not around. I hope these stab wounds heal soon. Yeah, I was wondering when you'd introduce me to the real you. Bring me down and build me up. It gets sorta hard to steer when the waves rolling in like this. Haven't seen